What's good, people? Izzy Max here. Back again for week 5 and some week 4 stuff since we had the PRs. We'll just be kind of breaking these down. This week is Poison Week. You see mons that weren't drafted that are Poison type. Woohoo! I'm joined by Ryan.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Johnny.
Howdy.
Quick PSA, update the goddamn doc because I'm not doing it for the next 2 weeks because I've already updated it for 2 weeks for people. All right, here we go. Game 1 of week 4. Ryan, here you go.
All right. So, we're sitting here, we've got the Johnny versus Maxwell game. When I look at the teams, my first thought is my boy Mr. Mangaler came. That's pretty cool. There's a Dracovish there that looks very good into this team. Lucha looks very good into this team. But John's got some good answers. The Volcarona sticks out as being pretty good with that Credilli Storm Drain. And little do we know, that Comfey is going to pop off. So let's go into the important notes. And Maxwell, can you... there we go. So disclaimer, it's been 2 weeks since I've watched this set, and I forgot most of it. So... there was some good back and forth in the set. According to my 2-week memory, I remember there was a lot of good momentum exchanges. Credilli was awesome because if Maxwell was allowed to just click Vicious Rend with his Scarf, he would have just kind of won. But because Credilli was there with the Storm Drain, that was very difficult to play around. Volcarona put in some good work this week. Glad to see it. Outstanding, that thing. The weakness policy Comfey was sick. Maxwell won, but he was kind of lame about it. There's not, he won with good play and good mons and good brings, and he had Mr. Mind, so that's something. The Tangrowth had round in case they just wanted to start singing at each other. He did Dynamax 3 different mons in the set. Good adaptability, like always. One of them, I guess, was a wrestler, kind of a luchador type, perhaps called Halucha, if you want to get persnickety with me about the name of Pokemon. Overall, it was legitimately a very good set. It has just been a while, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I do not have as good of things to say as usual. But those are my main takeaways from the set. Maxwell, you won, but you didn't have a weakness policy Comfey, so you weren't as cool. That's the TLDR.
Fair enough. Johnny, what do you think of our game?
Oh man, what a fun time it was. And yeah, really great positioning on your end, man, because that was the biggest thing is there's always a lot of synergy on your end. There's a lot of huge threats, but the biggest thing was just positioning around and being able to adapt to the silly stuff that I was throwing out. I'm trying to remember. Oh, there was one play that just kind of sealed the deal one of the games that you pulled, but it was mostly down to that really good gameplay.
It was when you protected your Volcarona and I read into it and killed whatever was next to it.
Yeah, that was huge, and calls like that, and there was a lot of good calls, and it was just one of those things, it was a fairly close game, I suppose, but you ended up taking it, and it was pretty fun, so I definitely had a challenge that week.
Yeah, even though Credilli only got brought once and never actually switched in to Dracovish, I could never click Vicious Rend. And if I could, I would have just won on the spot.
That's kind of how a lot of Lightning Rod users are supposed to work too, in theory.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. It's just an intimidation bring. It's kind of the same as bringing Defiant against an intimidate heavy team. It's will they actually bring this Defiant mon? Will they not? Will they bring the Storm Drain or whatever? So it's some good mind games going on there.
Yeah.
Those kind of in the back mind games are always nice to have.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out though is game 1 I didn't bring Halucha. No, I did, and it died before it revealed the weakness policy. And then in game 2, Johnny's just okay, it's just a damn Halucha, what's it gonna do? And procced my policy for me both game 2 and 3, and Halucha really put in work, and I was surprised because I had a way to proc it. It was the Mr. Mime.
The ice shard.
But Johnny just procced it for me, so Woo woo.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well, I missed that in game 2. I don't think I procced it. I think I just KO'd Halucha.
I couldn't remember if it was game 1 or game 2.
Yeah, because at the very end, well, no, I don't think it was either of those. Because when we went to game 3, I remember being surprised that it had weakness policy. I'm like, oh, oops. You know, which that was tough. I'll have to rewatch that because I remember
it's
the
been a while.
surprise of being hurt. You know, but I was really proud of that Meow Stick. You know, Fish's Wind would have really hurt, but I did bring Charm on Meow Stick, and then it also had Sunny Day, and that was my biggest thing. And I mean, that goes to anybody that plays against somebody that has like the terrain advantage, is knowing the mechanics of how they work. Because that was my biggest thing, is like, well, I can't use priority on him, but the way that it works is that you can use priority on the field, and you can also use it against yourself. So that's why, you know, I wasn't afraid to click Sunny Days, because it can still pop off, which is really nice.
Right.
And then I just had to position correctly to use Charm. But I was pretty scared of the Fish's Wind, and he never brought it out, and you know, that's cool. So save some toilet paper there.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it in the face of the Credilli. One really good turn that I kind of want to boast on myself was when you charmed the Lucha and the Dracovish in game 3. I switched out the Dracovish while protecting the Halucha to get in something else. It was one of the better repositioning games that I had, and like I still almost lost. Me and Johnny had to go back after game 3 to calc something, because I said, you know, Vish was faster. If you just let me Ironhead you, proc the policy, double gleam might have killed both mons, but it wouldn't have, because Tangrowth was AV and would have been able to live it. But it was very close.
Yeah, fun match.
All the crits. Moving on, Grant versus Ryan. Yeah, we're just gonna go really quick on these. I don't want to make this video too long. Grant's core has been established, which is a good core. Nothing really to fret about it. The two main mons that kind of change is going to be the Ninetales and the Jolteon. Those are the mons you're going to see that are different from week to week, because he does have the Sableye. Then Jolteon's just kind of a tech position. But on Ryan's side, you finally get to see the Licky Licky, which was his pickup for this specific week, and it just kind of put in work. Again, Ryan's core kind of been established with the Moltres and Didi, but he's not afraid to kind of run away from it and do some other stuff. So Johnny, go ahead and with your notes first.
Well, you know, in this match, I really liked the Landorus because, and I think Ryan makes note of that in the video, is it's got the Intimidate, but then also to cover for, you know, in case he doesn't know if it's a special attacker, he had the Max Flutterby to lower the special attack. So the Landorus, I mean, not only was it intimidating, but when it maxed, I mean, it had such pressure, but then it also covered for attacks, which was really nice. Over the crunch, I suppose. I think Landorus gets crunch. And then, I mean, the biggest thing with Grant's team in general, though, I mean, it has synergy, and it had a pretty even matchup with Ryan's, I thought, by looking at it, you know. I mean, he had pretty good prep for the Moltres, right, with like the Azumarill, you know, with like a strong play rough or something, and pretty good offense. But, it just had trouble in Trick Room. Ryan had more ability to use his mons in the Trick Room. I really appreciated the Max Lightning, you know, to keep himself awake on his Licky Licky, which was really great. And I mean, there was this moment in one of the games where he had been yawned, and I think it was in game 2, and Ryan had already revealed that he had a Max Lightning, so it's just kind of like writing down what moves the opponent has to remember that, because I remember facing Lapras, and I think that was like Series 5 or something, you know, when Gigantamax Lapras was really big, and you could never put the thing to sleep because it always bring a Max Lightning. But and then Ally Switch would have been perfect on Grant's end after yawn in game 2. Wow, I just read that. But there was a very vital switch that would have worked out really well with that. What's it called? It's got the dream mist coming out of its face.
Musharna.
Yeah, Musharna. Because I remember, that was a couple weeks ago. It was using ally switch infamously, right? Like too many times. But there was this moment where if there had been an ally switch, I think that positioning would have gone way better in game 2. We could have maybe seen a game 3, but that's how it goes. It was just kind of Trick Room came up, and Licky Licky was a huge surprise. I mean, it's hard to prep for that, So that's how I saw the match. What do you think, Izzy Max?
So you could tell that Grant's inexperience with draft kind of led him to be a little bit surprised when the Licky Licky just clicked belly drum. Hell, I would have been surprised, and I would say I'm very experienced in this type of format. Game 2 showed a lot of good flexibility from Grant. What I mean by this was game 1, you could clearly tell that Grant really didn't know how to handle the Licky Licky. And in game 2, he made some changes because, Ryan said, it's been 2 weeks. But if I remember right, Ryan just went for the same thing to set up belly drum because Grant really didn't have an answer to it.
The only thing I switched was I led with Frostlass to scare Landorus because I just wanted to Will-O-Wisp Landorus so it couldn't do any damage.
That's right, yeah. And I felt like Grant made some good changes to his approach with the Licky Licky, so I really did like that. And it shows that experience really does play a huge role in kind of utilizing some of these lower tiered mons. And this was week 4, mind you. I will say again in week 5 when we cover Grant's game, he had some big boy moments, and I think this game kind of helped him realize that low tier mons actually play a role, and they can be very, very good if utilized correctly, and that's kind of what the Licky Licky did here. Ryan, go ahead and kind of talk about this match the best you can.
Yeah, no, Grant adjusted well. And part of my play, especially that game 2, when he yawned my Licky, I mean, I just went for the Max Lightning on Musharna. I knew he could ally switch the Lando, and I even commented in the video, he could just clean switch into Jolteon. But I was sort of doing that play because it was my safest play at the time. I could have made something different or more aggressive or whatever, but I felt fairly comfortable with the risk because it's very easy to forget Electric Rain prevents sleep, in my opinion, especially to newer players. So I was pretty comfortable with that being an opt-in. Yeah, and Licky surprised me. I went into that game not super optimistic because I mean I had a mode outside of Licky, but Landorus just really hurt my team, and I needed to have something that could kind of handle it. And it surprised me. I was pretty impressed with the Lick. Would recommend. Best tier 5. Don't at me that.
Moving on here, Johnny, why don't you go ahead and take this one?
All right, so we got Dark versus Burst here, and Burst bursted out of the doors here. He tore him off with his great what do they call that in anime? The Revengeance arc or whatever. But I mean, a lot of great stuff going on here. Initially, I mean, if you look at the two matchups, it's fairly even. I mean, nothing really sticks out in terms of oh man, okay, this is overweighing or whatnot. You can see there's lots of synergy on both sides. Burst brought the Morgrim, of course, and then we've got the Talonflame there. And of course, Dark's got his classic 6 there with the Roserade, though. I think that's a big change, and a lot of cool stuff going on here. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah. Ryan, go ahead and take your stuff first.
Yeah, so I actually really like Burst is finally starting to, and we'll see it again in the following week when he plays me. Burst has finally figured out the team, and that's a huge deal. Burst finally has a good sense for how the team works. I think he's working with something he's more comfortable with, and that combined really, this was the first week where I think that really got to be showcased in a big way, so I thought the team usage was great. Rhyperior is super solid, just in general, and it did good work here. There was a timeout. I think Maxwell also commented on it. That was a little unfort on, I believe it was Dark's end. One thing with Dark though is I feel like Dark right now feels like he's prepping around himself and what he wants to do, and he's not always prepping around his opponents and what they want to do. Because I feel like the matchup could have gone a lot more in his favor had he done a little bit more prep for some of the things that Burst has, because it felt like there was some answers that were kind of missing here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's, to piggyback off of that, my last comment saying, however, lacked surprises is, it didn't. I mean, there was things like when you're prepping for an opponent and you say, oh, okay, well, what if they burn my Mon? Well, how am I going to get over that? Am I going to bring a berry or have something with aromatherapy somehow? But there wasn't much of that. It was just kind of like, you've got this team that has these sets. And yeah, there was a little bit of surprise, but not really. So then it just gave Burst free reign to come in and just kind of have answers to what Dark's team does, how it functions. So, I mean, and that redemption arc, that was what I was thinking of earlier. Anyway, Burst with the redemption arc here. But anywho, and speaking of checks, so things I just went over here was just like the fire punch tech on the Urshifu. I don't know if that's like a tech, but I mean, it worked really well for what Dark brought. And then really cool, Burst talks about this in his video. He wrote down all of the sets that Dark had used. So like, I don't know, 2 different ones in the last 5 weeks. LOL. But he wrote down all those sets and I guess any information that he had found and looked at that and prepared himself for how to react to most of that. So there was a little bit of surprise, but he had a really good feel for what Dark's team was. Magnezone and Rhyperior, they had this combo. Oh gosh, how did it go? He used the electric move that does spread damage to everybody,
Discharge.
But it discharge, and it procced the electric berry, but then also it did damage. And then when Rhyperior came in and did his electric type attack, since the berry had already been procced, it did full damage. And I mean, that was amazing. I mean, that was fantastic stuff. So really good play on Burst's end. And I mean, Dark has had a really good composition. But yeah, again, it wasn't, I don't think there was that much thought into, how's he going to beat my thing? Is he going to come up with this wacky thing to maybe burn my opponents or like helping hand calcs? I didn't see too much of that,
Yeah, so what I got here is just what Ryan said. Burst is finally getting a hold of what their team does, which is fantastic to see. Magperia was a great combo into what Dark was doing. I think the only Mon that it really kind of struggled with would have been... No, actually, I think it just hits everything. Yeah, it just actually hit everything.
Rhyperior just hits everything. I have to admit, like, trading Togetic away for Rhyperior, I was questionable on. What I was more interested in was to see how Rhyperior would perform. And I have to admit, I've been extremely impressed. With how that thing's been used, both in this game and in the set against me, which we'll get to later.
For sure. One thing I wanted to see more out of Dark was the Roserade. Because based on what Burst brought, Roserade should have swept. If Dark could have checked the Magnezone, which he had in his power in his team comp, Roserade should have just swept. It beats the Urshifu with the Max Fairy or the Dazzling Gleam. It beats Rhyperior with the Max Grass or whatever. I don't even know what move it had on it. Roserade just matched up extremely, extremely well into Burst. And I just felt like there was a lot of targeting issues. Like something could be at low health, but it's still a super threat, but Dark targeted the wrong thing and just let that thing that's at low health continue to do massive damage. And then the timeout in game 2 was super unfortunate because you definitely didn't want to lead what Dark led. It was the worst possible scenario to have the 2 Mons that he had come out in game 2. So just super unfortunate, but I'm happy to see Burst is kind of starting to put in some work, and we'll see that again in the next week of games. But yeah, here's this. We're now in week 5. Who wants to do this?
I got you, Chief. Oh. I'm basically just the disaster segment. So anytime that something needs to go awry, I'll do it. All right, so this week we have a really nice team paste from Maxwell. You'll see my boy Mr. Rhyme Gallers there again. I was pretty hyped about that. Other than that, there's nothing to tell, literally at all. So whack ass
really
shit, just running a weird ass trick room Dracovish.
I like to imagine that Toxtricity put the choice specs on, and he would look really cool.
Dude, Toxtricity would look. I'm gonna run Black Glasses Toxtricity just for style points one day.
Dude, that's
There you go.
amazing.
There you go.
Right? All right, move it. Yeah, so my Snarl is boosted.
Yeah,
all
this was unfortunate. It was just a forfeit.
It was a forfeit.
There
We
you
have
go.
some notes.
Yeah, no,
there
they
we
don't
go.
matter.
Hey, hold on. I have to read my notes.
Oh,
You
okay.
asked
All
me
right,
to take
all right.
over for this. You gotta let me read my notes. What a team, my boy Mr. Mime there. Those are my notes. John,
I'm pretty sure I could have inserted an actual emoji, but I chose to type it out in text.
Yeah.
'Cause, Discord and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. That's
but
what this
yeah.
match deserved.
It looks good, like aesthetically. I don't know about calcs and stuff, but otherwise, can you imagine a Mawile like holding a life orb? That'd be adorable.
Hell yeah. All right, here you go. Ryan, you can actually have this one.
Okay, so Hector versus Grant. This was a really interesting set in a lot of ways. We are seeing Grant kind of expand out his team a bit using the Steelix and the Drampa. We see Hector finally bring the Charizard, which is super hype. I love Vaporeon. We're seeing that Quagsire trade come in. And Klefki, I think, is actually quite good into Grant's team. So just like on paper, there's a bit of some expansion. Grant's obviously going for more of a TR mode here, I think. It's pretty evident that with the Steelix, Azu, Drampa, Musharna, like those four operate pretty well as a TR core. So we'll kind of get into that. What do you guys... So some things that I like, I really like how Hector's been using Persian in general this league. I think the Icy Wind was obviously a very good call here. It put in a lot. Game one was super weird. The 6 Mons on Hector's side, and the rule set being where, I don't know what was up with that, but it's fine. It was just a little odd. I get why Hector forfeited just because he had 6 Mons, and what do you do with that? I do think this is probably Grant's best gameplay I've seen. His game was very good. I think his prep was also very good into a lot of what Hector had. I think the Steelix was a great bring. And the set had good back and forth. Like the back and forth between the two teams was very solid. I do think RNG was a factor though, in this set. There was a lot of just weird stuff that happened here. And especially that game 3, like those last couple turns were, I do think Hector doesn't usually win those last couple turns, but man, I mean, he got like 3 full pairs in a row and never got a Scald Burn after 3. That's like 70% chance. That's a little unfortunate. This week was in general quite cursed. You'll see that more in the blue division just because they had more games because they didn't have a forfeit, but there was some weird stuff this week. RNG definitely played into this. However, it was a great win by Grant. I think it was well deserved. And I thought this was one of Hector's I think this was one of Hector's like better prepped games, and I think it was also he did a lot of really good stuff. So
yeah, I agree, and it was an interesting matchup in general because I mean I feel like with all the RNG, which I mean that's how the game goes, but with a lot of these road bumps, if you will, it ended up, I mean, I feel like it was kind of like at certain moments in the matches like pulling teeth on who would get momentum and actually like get to the W. That was really tough because I mean it's a pretty good matchup between the two sides. I don't look at either and say, oh, okay, here's a clear winner. So it was kind of evenly matched at different points and took a little while, and that's why like match 3 was so weird. And it just dragged on and on and on. But I really appreciated the Lando and Musharna. I mean, I think that was a textbook example of how to use Helping Hand. And really great targeting. I mean, I got the Lando was such a big force in that game. I think that was game 1 when it really popped up. Or maybe that was game 2. But Of course, Charizard always coming in with good stuff. But yeah, looking at Hector's team, even just from the first screen, is Persian and Klefki doing really crazy stuff. But it ended up being Persian and Quagsire, the number one Pokemon ever made. And man, the Icy Winds and the speed control was just crazy. I mean, there was a lot of really, really good techs on Persian and Quagsire, and really just to Hector's team. But yeah, really, really fun match.
Yeah, so overall, everybody agrees it was a weird set. Based on the position of game one, I do think Hector would have won. But he brought 6 Mons, clearly a rule break, timeout, whatever. Good on Hector for just forfeiting and not just playing it out. So I do commend you on that, but I do think you would have won game one if those were the 4 Mons that you actually brought. And then it was Grant's first win, still showing great improvement. Like I said when we covered the first game, the Steelix I felt actually was doing a lot of work and kind of put Hector in a weird position where targeting it was kind of not optimal, but was necessary. And you kind of could feel that moving throughout the game. But yeah, super weird. The end game for Hector in game 2 was just so unfortunate. I don't know if he wins it because damage from a Max Vaporeon is still going to do a lot to just a random Azumarill. So we could have got enough damage off there, or if the burn happened, the damage output from said Azumarill is going to be nerfed tremendously. So I don't know if Grant would have actually pulled this out with the RNG the way it was, and with Hector kind of just timing out and accidentally bringing 6 Mons. So I don't know, but I'm glad Grant got a win, and you could see that he's really starting to kind of get a hold on his team and start to experiment more with some of the lower tier things that he picked up. So just overall great to see it, and hopefully this RNG does not continue into next week. So moving on to our last game. Yeah. Johnny, why don't you take this one? Johnny? Ryan?
He's in the ghost zone, I think.
Okay, well, I'll take it then.
Just start talking until he appears. He'll conjure himself into existence here.
There you go. So this game is Ryan versus Burst. On paper, it's actually super interesting. So you see Burst with his new tier 1. Ended up dropping the Finny for the Naganadel. Everybody knows my stance on Finny, so good trade. But we see Ryan over here actually bringing the Slurpuff. I think this is the first time we've seen it. I was talking with Ryan. Slurpuff can do some crazy stuff. So I was really interested to see how this one could go. Moltres seems to be a huge threat into everything that isn't named Rhyperior. So yeah, I guess I'll just cover my notes. Oh, Johnny, are you back?
I'm back. Okay.
Cover your notes. There you go.
Oh, great. Yeah, sorry about that. I disconnected. Okay. Well, it seems that there was is this Ryan versus
Burst.
Grant? Burst. Okay. Yeah. This was a fun match. I mean, for sure. Let's see. So, looking at it, Trick Room stuff, Slurpuff's, maybe the Slurpuff is going to set up. Maybe Trick Room on Burst sides, big offensive pressure, really nice matchup for Burst. I think overall Burst had kind of the advantage here. I mean, really great ability choice on the Jellicent. I know it's got a 30% thing to proc, but it turned out really well. I mean, he could have put Water Absorb on there, or I think that's the only other ability it gets. But I mean, that was a really good choice. I mean, yeah, it's up to RNG, but I mean, it's still a factor. Great call on Ryan's end. It was in a position where both Mons were going to go down. He set up with the Haxorus and just kind of swept the other guys out with Moltres. It was a tough matchup, I think, overall. But Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a really great match to watch. I mean, Ryan's got really great positioning skills, and he's got a good sense of the battlefield. But I think Burst, the checks that he brought to what Ryan brought was kind of in his favor. There was a protect play. Oh yeah, there was this really great move where Burst protected his Magnezone and it had the air balloon. And then Ryan did a spread move, but of course it didn't go through the protect. And then when the max move came out because of the speed tiers, it was ineffective. I mean, that was such a great sense of what was happening. You know, I mean, Burst read right into that, and that gave him a really good advantage. That's all I got.
Yeah, so my first two points are Curse Body and Curse Body because they procced in both Game 1 and Game 2 and just really neutered Ryan's damage output. And I also believe it neutered Ryan's win cons for both Game 1 and Game 2. One thing I do kind of want to harp on Ryan for was the exact turn that Johnny is talking about. It is... Yeah, it's a great play, but when you're wasting a Dynamax turn on hoping there isn't a protect, it just feels bad.
That was a straight misplay, I'll be honest. Burst read me like a book, because I'm just sitting here like, well, the problem is I can max ground into either Mon. So I was like, which one do I focus? So I was like, well, he probably was thinking the zone was safe because it's got the air balloon and he probably thinks he'll target Rhyperior. I was expecting actually a Mesprit switch in on the Rhyperior and a Magnezone to like hit one of the other Mons on the field. He did the much better play, but it was definitely not ideal for me because he made a very good lead.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch Burst's side, I believe the Mesprit almost came out on the Rhyperior in that play, but it's just a weird one. Like, Magnezone puts in a lot of work for what you wanted to do in-game with the Moltres, but in the same turn, there's an air balloon and there's a levitator, and you're using a turn of max to...
Oh no, it was a huge misplay.
Yeah. Knowing how good you play, Ryan, and how good you prep and like position, that was like the worst thing I've ever seen you do.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I'll be honest, I don't think I played this set very well. I think Burst played it extremely well. I think it's probably one of Burst's best sets in terms of play I've ever seen him do. And I will be honest, I did not play this one very optimally in a lot of ways. My Game 1 was very sloppy. My Game 2 was kind of sloppy. I do think I would have been in there a bit longer without the Cursed Body RNG, since I was really setting up for a late game Moltres Fire Ass sweep. But the cookie crumbles, you know?
Yeah, in Game 1...
And then I wouldn't have been in that position had I played better, you know?
Yeah,
so
for sure. In Game 1, I definitely think the Cursed Body mattered. In Game 2, I'm not 100% sure because I think Burst had just way too much HP on all of his Mons. Granted, you could have flinched with Fire Wrath, but God only knows.
God only knows.
But the slow play from Burst at the end of Game 2, I think made it to where the Cursed Body really didn't matter. And I just thought this was one of the better performances from Burst and one of the worst performances from yourself. So...
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I'll be honest, I'm hoping for a much better set against John this week, personally speaking. No, but huge GG's at Burst. I mean, he played and prepped really well. One thing I do want to let other coaches know is Rhyperior is ridiculous. That thing was a nightmare to prep for. I was like... Because I came in pretty confident. I had some, I have a Slow King. I got like good. I have a couple Mons with some okay grass coverage and good ground types, good fighting types. Oh man, that thing was a nightmare to calc for. I mean, it was like +2 Blaziken, Max Quake did like 70%, and then you die to a Rockfall. Like, it was ridiculous. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah, and in the game against Dark, solid rock, sand was up, +1 special defense boost from Max Quake, and it took 20% from a Muddy Water from a max special attack Milotic.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is crazy. The fact that, like, I don't think the Togetic trade was right, but is Rhyperior right for Burst's team? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very, very good. And
well, the fact that
it really hurt my ability to prep for his team, because without that thing, it was actually fairly straightforward to prep. I had good answers to everything without that thing on his team.
Well, the fact that he beat coach number 2 and number 3 after the Togetic trade, I think should shut people up about it for a while.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Nice job, Bruce.
Yeah, for sure. But that's going to wrap it up for us. This was such a weird week, and then we half-ass covered week 4 because we mostly don't remember what the hell happened.
Yep.
So yeah, closing thoughts and a joke from Johnny. Ryan, closing thoughts.
Yeah, definitely a weird ass week, but certainly not a bad one. Here's hoping that we only have a couple more weeks of in-division, so here's hoping that, things end strong for the in-division games. I am very excited to see what people do for the rest of the season. Johnny, I'm gonna beat you this week depending on the quality of your joke right now. If it's too low, then I'm gonna win. If it's high enough, though, I'm gonna lose. So I'm just gonna put that out there.
All right, Johnny.
Great. All right. Hey, did you guys hear about the Squirtle Squad? They got their own firehouse. Did you hear about that? Like fire station?
Oh, no, I didn't. What's up?
Yeah. And it's local, like in Oran. You know where Oran's at. Yeah, the Squirrel Squad actually got their own fire station. But the townsfolk were kind of mad. Some of them thought that the Squirrel Squad didn't actually need like their own facility and all this equipment. So a poll was taken, and unfortunately, the Squirrel Squad ended up falling in the hole in the ground.
No.
No. Oh, yeah.
No.
I'm winning this week.
No. Okay. Listen. Johnny, I got the joke because you have to watch the anime in order to understand that joke.
Yeah, because they're firefighters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And firefighters have poles. They took the pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I'm winning this week. Holy crap! I wasn't expecting it to be that easy, but okay.
Yeah, that's your situational squirrel joke. But yeah, really crazy last 2 weeks. Really learned a lot about myself. Learned that I need to write better jokes. I wrote that one. I didn't just steal that from Bird Keeper Toby.
Yeah.
I mean, that one I actually had to write. But anyway, and then the other closing thought about the giveaway I always talk about.
Yep.
Week 5 giveaway. We've gotten in all the numbers. Tomorrow I'm probably going to do some sort of live stream sort of thing and pick the winners from that. But we've got the Shelmet and the Carablast ready. They're in their Cherish balls, and they got the ribbon on them and stuff. So that'll be really cool. And then week 7 is going to be the crazy one. I'm giving away the Sinnoh trio, and then like 3 regional mons, and then a Larvitar for the lowest differential in the league. So if you want to start throwing your games now just to get a shiny Larvitar and a Cherish ball, I mean, by all means. So that's all that's going on with me. But yeah, great stuff. Keep it coming, folks. It's all great.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.